Hello and welcome to Chemistry 251 Lab. Today we're going to be doing thin layer chromatography, also known as TLC. And the first thing that we need to talk about is what an actual TLC plate looks like. So this is a TLC plate. It's got a shiny side and it's also got a matte side. We're going to be using the matte side to spot our different compounds down onto the plate. You can see that I've marked 5 different spots on the TLC plate. That's where I'm going to put the compounds down. The different compounds that we're going to be using: acetaminophen, aspirin, caffeine, salicylamide, and a reference. The reference is going to contain all 4 of those compounds. I've also got an unknown. My unknown that I'm using here is unknown number 3. Each group will have a different unknown. And you're going to dissolve 0.3 grams of that unknown into 5 milliliters of this dichloromethane ethanol mixture. And really, the goal of this lab is for you to determine which of these different drugs you have present in your unknown. So now I'm ready to go ahead and spot my compounds onto my TLC plate. So here I've got a spotter or a micropipette, and all I'm really going to do is dip this spotter into the solution and then touch it lightly onto the TLC plate. So you can see here I'm just going to touch it. Really, the amount of compound that you're going to apply is going to vary. So what I would recommend is basically just give it a go. Put down a little bit, and once you develop your TLC plate, you'll be able to tell if you've put too much or too little. Now you can see I'm just going to spot the rest of the compounds onto the TLC plate. Again, try not to put too much onto the plate. And once this process is done, then I will be ready to develop the TLC plate. It's also a good idea to label your different lanes on your TLC plate so that you know what sample you're spotting on each one. So what we're looking at here is our solvent solution that we're going to be using to develop our TLC plates, and it's attached to a dispensing pump. So one thing about the dispensing pumps, there's this little cap that you need to remove before using it, and to use this properly, all you're going to do is lift up on the dispensing pump, and then you can really just let go and allow that to dispense the solution into your jar. You never really want to push down on these or force them. Just try to be gentle with the dispensing pumps. You might need to add a little bit extra, so if you need to add just a little bit more to ensure that that bottom is completely covered, go ahead and just lift up a little bit and let go, and that will dispense 2 more mils or whatever you think that you might need. So once my TLC plate has been spotted and my development chamber is ready to go, all I need to do is place the TLC plate gently into the jar, then cap the jar, and once you've got it capped, you just want to let it sit there. You don't want to disturb it at all. And we can already see the level of that solvent start to rise up the plate through capillary action. Now I'm going to speed up the video 20 times so that we will quickly get to the end point. Once your TLC plate is done developing, you'll take it out of the jar and go ahead and just throw it down onto a paper towel. Now, right away, what you want to do is you want to mark with a pencil the level that the solvent reached. So just draw a line right across where that solvent front stopped, and that's going to be useful later on when we calculate our RF values for our different compounds. So easy thing to forget, just make sure you do that right away, and then you can go ahead and let it sit and dry for a few minutes. Another thing I want to mention about the TLC plates is that it's important to only handle it by the edges or using tweezers. Okay, so my TLC plate is now dry, and I can take it into the back room to use the TLC Visualization chamber and go ahead and look at where those spots show up on my TLC plate. So here's what my TLC plate is going to look like under the UV light, so I can clearly see the spots for my different compounds. And this is going to be the first time where you really get a sense of how much compound you put down on each spot. So I would say that these look pretty good. There might be a little bit too small, but we can clearly see them, so I think that my spotting size was probably appropriate. Now, if your spots are really, really large, that tells you that maybe you should back off a little bit on your spotting. So what I'm doing now is circling lightly in pencil the outlines of all of those spots. And I want to do this just so I can simply visualize what's going on outside of the UV light. You might have noticed that 2 of those spots at the top right look a little different. Those spots are fluorescing, and so we can go ahead and mark those. I'm going to mark those with an X through each one of those spots to remind myself that that's what was going on. The second visualization method that you can use to see the spots on your TLC plate is simply staining with iodine. So here what I'm showing you is basically we're just going to put the TLC plate into this jar that's got iodine mixed with sand. The iodine vapors will stain your spots so that you will have a permanent record on the TLC plate. Make sure to do this step after you've done the normal UV visualization method.